Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Calvis. I'm a program manager on the Outlook team at Microsoft, and I'm super excited to present this session today on the new Outlook for Mac, Under the Hood. Today we'll start out by covering Outlook versions and support and provide an update on blocking injection plugins. And then we'll dive into the new Outlook for Mac, looking at sync, search, account supported, and authentication. And then we'll talk about a new preference key to deploy the new Outlook for Mac and how we can use existing preference keys to manage settings in the new Outlook. So let's get started. All right, Outlook is a part of the Office for Mac family, and there are two currently supported generations of Office for Mac, 2016 and 2019. Both can be activated with a retail or volume license or a Microsoft 365 subscription. Now, we wanted to start this session today by emphasizing that support for the 2016 generation of Office for Mac will end on October 13th, 2020. Now, the apps will continue to function after that, but there'll be no more monthly 16.16.x updates. And technical support, including chat and phone support, will end. Also, the online help content will slowly be retired. In addition, we also have a new version of macOS, version 11 Big Sur, announced. And with our new N-2 macOS version support model that was introduced with the 2019 generation of Office for Mac, that means that version 10.13 High Sierra support will end for that when Big Sur reaches general availability. So to recap, after Big Sur is in general availability, Office for Mac will support Mojave, Catalina, and Big Sur. And now an update on blocking of injection-based plugins. Earlier this year, we announced in a support.office.com article that Outlook would be blocking injection-based plugins. Now, through various macOS updates on Catalina and Mojave, Apple has started to block these injection-based plugins due to security and stability concerns. Now in Outlook, we have a lot of users who still use these plugins, and so we've been working on a transition plan to move from injection-based plugins to supported Office add-ins. Originally, we had targeted a June 2020 timeline to block these plugins, but due to COVID-19, we're continuing to work with developers and customers on this timeline and have announced that the block will happen later this year in 2020. So steps to take. Determine if you have these plugins deployed in your environment, and if so, deploy the Office add-in replacement for those plugins. And lastly, be sure to remove the plugin so it's no longer interacting with Outlook. As we've seen, these plugins can cause instability in Outlook. In fact, the top crashers and hangs in Outlook are generally these plugins, which impact our end users' user experience and overall impression of Outlook. So let's jump into the new Outlook for Mac. Last year at Ignite, we announced the new Outlook debuting in the Insider Fast audience. And throughout this past year, we've received overwhelmingly positive feedback on this experience and wanted to recap really what is driving the new Outlook for Mac experience. It's actually the combination of two previously separate efforts that have now combined into one. The first is something we call protocol convergence. This means moving away from our current production stack that uses EWS to sync with Exchange Online and our SQLite-based database, which has a copy of all of the all of the records from your account stored as external files on your Mac, to an architecture that uses Microsoft Sync technology, which is also used by Outlook for iOS and Android, and Windows 10 Mail and Calendar. This protocol convergence effort not only improves our architecture and enables us to be a more performant and reliable app, but it also helps us accelerate our innovation velocity, meaning we can actually make some more progress on shipping features that you may be used to and expect from other endpoints like Outlook for Windows, Outlook on the web, and Outlook mobile. And not only bridge that gap, but introduce new features that are part of the whole Outlook ecosystem. So along with protocol convergence, we're working on an updated user experience, providing an experience that is authentically Mac, designed for Mac users, comfortable on the Mac platform, and pairing those design updates with the new features that are afforded by the protocol convergence. So let's take a look at the latest designs. Here we have the new Outlook for Mac with design updates crafted for Big Sur. You'll notice rounded corners, updated iconography, and design touches that improve the simplicity and power of the app. For a complete overview of the design updates and latest features we've shipped in this past year, please refer to our new Outlook for Mac overview session if you haven't already done so. So in releasing the new Outlook, we made a deliberate decision to provide a toggle switch to easily switch between experiences. And what this means is we're actually shipping one build, the same build you get every month in production, that has 2 Outlook apps contained in that build. And the switch now provides you an easy way to go from the current production experience, which uses EWS to sync with Exchange Online, IMAP, POP, depending on your account types, with that SQLite-based database and all those external records, to now toggle with the new Outlook, which switches the architecture over to using Microsoft Sync technology with a new store and new experience. And at any time, you can go back and forth. What this also means is we're actually maintaining both apps as we develop the new Outlook, so that you can go back and forth and try features, go back for features that might not be there yet. And this started from our release in Insider Fast to ensure that we can get feedback on the new experience, but also provide users a way to toggle. All right, a little bit more on Microsoft Sync technology. One of the biggest benefits of using the Microsoft Sync technology in the new Outlook is finally having a sync window in Outlook for Mac. In our current production app, as I mentioned, using EWS, we sync every record from your account on the server down to your Mac. Everything is on the Mac, and we use Spotlight to index and perform searches in the Outlook for Mac. And as you might know, to actually get to that steady state where everything is synced down, the initial sync experience on EWS is quite resource intensive. In fact, if you have a new Mac, new account, you might as well just plug in your Mac and leave it sync over the weekend to try to get to that steady state. Well, with the sync window, now you have just what you've accessed recently on your Mac. If you navigate to a folder, 1,000 conversations are synced. You can continue to scroll, and beyond 1,000 conversations, those will fill in. And as you move between folders, if there's a folder you haven't accessed in a while, the space will be freed up. Now, so this sync window is something that's managed by the app. It's not currently user or admin configurable, but that's something we're monitoring very closely. We've been talking to a lot of customers about it, and we'd love to hear more feedback on how the sync window is performing for you. Now, one thing to also call out is in that sync window is a new store on your Mac. And so that data comes down to a store in your profile that is actually much smaller than the entire main profile in the current production Outlook for Mac. So on this slide, I actually have my current profile using the current production version of Outlook for Mac. It's 140 gigabytes of data. It's a huge portion of my MacBook is dedicated to Outlook. It's, in fact, probably too much. and being aware of how much data is being taken up by Outlook has always been a problem for our current production app. Now, using the new Outlook, if I'm using it just by itself without having accounts in the current production Outlook, I can actually get that profile size down to under 4 gigs for the same accounts. This includes my work account and personal mailboxes. Now, as you might have guessed, as soon as I switch back, if I re-add those accounts in the old Outlook, then using both side by side will take up all of that space. So we're really excited about the use of the sync window and Microsoft Sync technology. Moving on to search. With use of the sync window and Microsoft Sync technology, we now have enabled the use of Microsoft Search when you're working online. So this performs a search against your entire mailbox, or if you have multiple accounts added in Outlook, all of your mailboxes, and provides the familiar Microsoft Search experience that you have on other Outlook endpoints. This includes new features that we've never had on Mac before, like the natural language search. I'm a huge fan of just typing unread from Alex and having all of those results display. We also have Speller. If you misspell a search term, you have suggestions based on the misspelling. But what happens when you're offline? We can't use Microsoft Search to search your entire mailbox on the service. We've moved away from using Spotlight Importer for all those external records on the SQLite-based database to using Core Spotlight on the new store. Now, this actually has a lot of benefits to it. When you're offline, the store, again, is your sync window. So it represents items that you've recently accessed. And Core Spotlight has improved performance and reliability on that sync window. So we've heard positive feedback on both the online and offline scenarios. And we can't wait for you to try it out and provide more feedback. Next, requirements and account types. So the new Outlook for Mac is supported on Mojave and newer, and as indicated in the earlier part of this session, with the N-2 High Sierra support for the current production Outlook will be phased out as Big Sur is released to general availability. And in terms of Outlook app versions, 1632 was the min version when we released Insider Fast last year. And now just last month, in July, we released to Insider Slow. So the new Outlook experience, the toggle defaulted to off, is now available in both Insider Fast and Slow. 3 supported account types. So if you're using Outlook for Mac with Exchange Online, also called an Office 365 mailbox, Outlook.com, or Google, you will now be migrated to the new Outlook experience. Now, we've heard a lot of feedback around supported account types. In fact, it might be our number one piece of feedback in terms of using the new Outlook. We realize the power of using Outlook is to have all of your accounts in one place, no matter what account type. And so we're continuing to plan and work on supporting new account types in Outlook. We can actually report progress on iCloud and IMAP, which are currently in development, and we're planning for support of Exchange On-Prem, Yahoo, and Pop. So these are coming, and we are listening to the feedback loud and clear. A few notes on authentication. So for those 3 account types that are supported in Outlook, OAuth is now supported for all of them, which is very exciting if you've been using the Outlook for Mac in production. The newest actually is Outlook.com support. We finally got OAuth via the MSA Auth Dialog experience into Outlook for Mac. We shipped this for both current production, which is now out in 16.40, and the new Outlook. So no more basic auth for Outlook.com. And now this joins the experience when adding your Exchange Online account, which uses ADOL and that auth dialog experience that's on the left at the bottom, and using, when you add your Google account, also using OAuth via a browser experience, which is pictured on the bottom at the right. So no matter what account type you're using, you'll be able to take advantage if you have two-step auth via maybe your phone auth set up and not have to use an app-specific password. Or in the case of Google, have to go into account settings and allow less secure apps to connect. So we're really excited about authentication support, and we're paying close attention to this as we introduce new account types in the new Outlook. And how are we going to provide users and organizations a way to manage the new Outlook? We have a new preference key that we call the early adopter preference key. We actually heard from a lot of users who wanted to try the new Outlook, but not move into the Insider program. And this is for several reasons. Some organizations actually block Insider. Insider applies to the whole Office suite. So if you're in Insider Fast, for example, you'll get 2 updates per week for all of the Office apps. And some users just do not want that, but they wanted to try the new Outlook. So with this preference key, you can set the appearance of the switch and the default position of the switch. So if you set the value to 0, that's kind of the current production experience, which means no switch in production. Or you can set the value to 1 to have it defaulting off. The value of 2 is a default on. That's kind of what you see right now in the screenshot, where you're in the new Outlook by default, but you can opt out. And finally, the value of 3, which I call the bold option, is to be in the new Outlook with no switch. And this option actually came from customer feedback. We've had customers request that for new deployments of Outlook, they wanted to have end users use the new Outlook with their accounts and not be able to go into the old Outlook, which uses all the space I mentioned with the store and lack of sync window, and less reliable in terms of sync and reliability. So now in version 1638, you can try the new Outlook in any channel and control and manage the switch. So taking that early adopter pref key, you can also use existing preference keys. All of this is documented on our admin deployment guide on docs.microsoft.com to set up mailboxes and manage settings throughout mail and calendar. And so taking the combination of early adopter and existing settings, you can now manage the experience for new Outlook users. And that's what we'll do. We'll pull it all together, including the overview on sync, search, accounts, and authentication, and using management pref keys to deploy Outlook. We'll take a look at how this all comes together in a few demos right now. Okay, let's exit slideshow and start the demo by going to the Mac App Store, where I recently downloaded and installed the latest production version of Outlook for Mac, version 16.40, released about 2 weeks ago from the moment of this recording. You'll see a release note here mentioning improved security for Outlook accounts. This is the OAuth support for Outlook.com we just discussed. Now, before I launch the app, I want to go over a few configuration profiles I've installed to manage that first run experience. So let's launch System Preferences, go to Profiles, and first we'll look at a preference in the com.microsoft.autoupdate2 domain, which is where I set the channel name to production. This is just to show that we're not an insider or any internal channel for this demo. This is the production experience. Next are some preferences in the com.microsoft.office preferences domain, namely the Office auto sign-in set to true and Office activation email address set to my demo Office 365 account. This is to help manage the first run experience where users need to activate Office with their Microsoft 365 subscription. This is whether from a Mac App Store build or a build downloaded and installed from the Microsoft CDN. I also have a few preferences set here for privacy and for telemetry. Again, to help manage that experience and bypass those initial prompts for end users. Lastly, some settings in the com.microsoft.outlook domain, specifically calling out Enable New Outlook, set to 2. Now you'll remember the value of 2 will launch Outlook in the new Outlook experience. The switch will be visible, and users can opt out to go to the production Outlook experience. I also have some other preferences set that I'll go over in the demo. Okay, let's launch Finder and look at my Outlook 15 Profiles folder in the User Library Group Containers folder. This is where all of my Outlook profiles live. Wanted to show that I have deleted any existing profiles on my Mac. I've also deleted preferences for Office and for Outlook, just to ensure it's a clean launch. And lastly, I disabled and reset the subscription state. So when I first launch this Outlook build, I'll be asked to activate the product, just to go through a true first run experience. So here we go. Launching Outlook from the Mac App Store. I'll be asked to activate. My demo account has been pre-populated for the end user and only a password is required. The product is activating, and now I'm all set to launch Outlook for the first time. My account is now added in Outlook. Folders are syncing, messages are syncing, and events are populating in the My Day view. This is the first experience users will have in the new Outlook for Mac. In production, set by management profile, that early adopter preference I mentioned. Even favorites for groups, subfolders, and my inbox are now ready. I can perform a search right away from Megan. I have the people card, which is one of the new search features where I can take a look at this person and perform any actions for that contact. And Outlook is ready to go, just like that. Smooth as butter. Now for this other part of the demo, I'd like to add a few more accounts in Outlook. A lot of people would like to have their personal accounts alongside their work account. So as mentioned, we support adding Outlook.com accounts, so I'll add one right now. And this uses the MSA OAuth flow I described earlier. So let's sign in. And let's add a Google account. Here's where I'll be prompted to sync the account through the Microsoft Cloud. This is our solution that uses an intermediate Microsoft-backed Mailbox to sync your account, and then Outlook for Mac will use Microsoft Sync technology to sync with that account. So let's continue, where authentication will complete through the browser, as I mentioned. We'll be redirected back to Outlook, and the account will finish. So now I have 3 accounts in Outlook for Mac. My Office 365 account, an Outlook.com, and a Google account. Let's try to add my iCloud account. Oops, iCloud is not supported yet. As I mentioned earlier, we have support for Office 365, Outlook.com, and Google, but not iCloud yet. It's something we're working on. So one last thing I'll show in this production Mac App Store build, being viewed with the early adopter preference key, is we'll go back to that main profile that was now created when I launched Outlook for the first time and take a look at how big it is. 174 megabytes with my 3 accounts now using that sync window, accessing the most important messages first. And if I needed to access any more accounts or features, I could always switch back. So on the switch, wanted to demonstrate one of our in-app opportunities to provide in-app feedback, where you can actually list, I need that iCloud account. And switch back. This will launch Outlook into the current production experience, EWS, syncing to our SQLite-based database. And as you can see, the sync is now initiating, where I'm having lots of attachments download and my fan is spinning. So before my Mac starts heating up my room, I'll quit the App Store build and continue our next set of demos in our latest development build. I'm going to navigate to the desktop, where I have a build from our development branch. Now I still have the same configuration profiles set to manage Outlook, with the exception of the channel name, which this build is now overridden to an internal channel instead of production. Also, when I launch this development build, it'll go into the current production experience, because that was the last experience I was using in the App Store build. So here we go. Here's the same Office 365 demo account. It's the same profile we were using. Let's switch to the new Outlook. New splash screen, looking good. And here we are, the new Outlook for Mac with the latest design updates for Big Sur and latest features. As mentioned earlier, please refer to our overview session for all the latest on features and design updates. I'll start here by looking at some of the latest search features I'd mentioned earlier. One is that natural language search, where I can search unread from Deborah and get all of those results quickly in my item list. Another one was Alex with attachment. All of those results with attachments from Alex super quickly in the item list. I also talked about speller. Ever misspell something, especially during a demo? Now I get results based on the misspelling right there in the item list super quick, with top results separated by a section of all results below. Now what about those admin preferences that we were managing for Outlook that I showed you earlier? Let's go into our mail reading preferences and take a quick look. One of those was automatically download pictures from the internet, now set to never. So this also applies now in the new Outlook. Another one was in signatures, where you can manage the use of client-side signatures. This is for organizations that might use a server-side solution for inserting signatures into mail for brand and consistency reasons. These now also work in the new Outlook. I'll also switch over to calendar view to take a quick look here. One was a weather preference. Looking tomorrow, Mountain View, California, my default location. Everything's looking pretty good, nice and sunny. And lastly, I wanted to show the online meeting preference. We had set both Skype and Teams meetings to be disabled when using Outlook right now. This is for organizations that might be using Teams for chat and other scenarios, but not for online meetings. Maybe they're using Zoom or WebEx or another solution. And end users might get confused about what to use if there's more than one option being displayed. So here our Teams toggle in the new experience for Event Compose is hidden, and even the options in the top event menu are disabled as they're being managed now by that administrator preference. And I have the Zoom add-in installed where I can quickly add a Zoom meeting using the Office supported add-in and not that injection-based plugin. Here we go, locations updated and meeting details are inserted. Everything looks good. Okay, the grand finale. It's time to add my iCloud account into Outlook for Mac. We'll go over to accounts, and I'll add that same account I tried in the App Store build. And now I have the same prompt we saw for Google, where I can choose to have my account sync through the Microsoft Cloud, a Microsoft-backed mailbox that Outlook will use Microsoft Sync technology to connect to for improved performance, reliability, and the latest features. So let's do that. Now for authentication, we're supporting basic auth right now. So if you have two-step authentication enabled, you'll have to put in an app-specific password, which I have copied, and now I'll add. And just like that, the iCloud account has been added to the new Outlook for Mac. So let's take a quick look. Already here in calendars, I have my calendars populated. For the first time in Outlook for Mac, we have iCloud calendar support. It's truly a new day for Outlook. Over in contacts, also here we go. For the first time, iCloud contacts in Outlook for Mac. And we even have new features like add to favorites, where I can quickly favorite a contact, go back to mail, find that contact, and the mail from that contact is now available in my favorites super quickly. So here we have Outlook for Mac with my Office 365 mailbox, Google account, Outlook.com, and iCloud with the latest features like focused inbox, search, calendar, and contacts as I showed. Everything in one place. We've also showed how to manage the experience with the admin pref keys, bringing everything from this demo together. Let's switch back to PowerPoint, and we'll conclude here with some resources and additional information on Outlook, Exchange. And also, I wanted to thank everybody for all of their feedback and time they've spent on the new Outlook this past year. We truly value and appreciate all of the feedback we've received. Thank you again, and have a great day.